Chief Executive Officer of Islamic Relief USA. He's just been to Gaziantep to assess the scope of the humanitarian challenges there. Ali, welcome.
Thank you so much.
All right, so someone who, like you, who has a team there, you have more than 100 people in that area, right? Give us your view of how things have been going in the aftermath.
Well, of course, when it first starts, its devastation is crisis management, and the team was only hours after the earthquake had started already coordinating to try to address the needs of the communities. They were operating with no sleep. They were in cars when they had to rest. So as you can imagine, they were affected themselves by the earthquakes. We had one staff member die, and we had over 20 family members connected to our staff who also passed away.
One of your staff members who was already there?
Yes.
I see. Okay. So when you look around you and you see the vastness of what has happened, where does your team even begin? I mean, what's the greatest need right now?
Yeah, so it's very critical to coordinate with the Turkish authorities. They've been working closely with AFAD to address what are the needs of the communities. For instance, while we were in Gaziantep yesterday, we provided food vouchers to 1,500 families after assessing and verifying the needs of those individuals. In addition to that, we have identified needs such as shelter, which is obvious currently. 2.5 million people are currently displaced. That displacement, as you're seeing people get tents, also the containers have now started to be delivered, so you're seeing that is primarily being taken care of by the Turkish authorities. However, Islamic Relief is filling gaps. So what we're doing is providing, the other day, we were providing hygiene kits because families had no shampoo, no soap, no basic items that you would need to just do your daily living.
I know that one issue has been sanitation, where you have a large number of people in one area, but very few facilities. Has that improved at all?
I think there has been progress from a month ago. At the same time, you're seeing people who've been moving around, who have not had a consistent place to stay. So it is going to be a process. It's going to take time for people to be able to have a proper shelter and proper latrines and sanitation areas.
So they're in Gaziantep and the cities that have been worst affected in that province. Are people likely to return if they can?
Well, we had the honor of interacting with many of the Turkish people and the Syrian people who have been impacted, refugees, and the fear that exists among people is quite significant. People are facing trauma. They don't feel safe in the area, not because of the disaster and the level of the disaster and the constant tremors that are continuing. There's a psychosocial element to this where psychological needs are going to need to be met to help people be able to come back to their homes.
So after seeing what you've seen and coming from your area of experience, what stays with you? What impacted you seeing it up close?
There's so many things. I mean, when you're walking through the rubble and you see toys of young children, it shows, especially as a father, you realize, wow, this is something that took a moment and people's lives were completely changed forever. When you talk to a father who was driving by and he told us, I was moving to Antalya and I was wondering how I was going to take all my things from the move. He lived in Antakya, and at that point, the earthquake happened and he had very few things left to take. He was just thanking God that him and his family survived.
Among the people there that you've been interacting with, does the trauma still feel very raw? It's been a month. I mean, in one sense, it's hard to believe it's been that long a time, but in another sense, it seems like that's a long time.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I was interacting with our colleagues who were there just a few weeks earlier from me, and then our team. Things have definitely settled down. People seem more calm. The sadness still exists. However, people are trying to do their best and they're very resilient. They're moving on with their daily lives. I think as soon as school begins, you'll start feeling a move back to normalcy.
Is it difficult in some of these places to access the basic needs, food and water?
It is, especially if you're displaced, if you don't have shelter. Some places, like in Turkiye currently, doesn't have any commercial activity. In Gaziantep, there is commercial activity taking place, so people are able to go and get their needs met. If they have financial capacity to do so. If you're working with an NGO or AFAD, you're able to also get some services.
Okay, and so for an average person, say, I mean, Antakya, is that you were there, right?
Yes.
And that's an extremely hard-hit city. Where do you go? Are there facilities set up where every day you go and get water and meals, or are people living in tents there? Describe the scene in that place in particular.
So in the actual city, there's almost no one there. So when you walk away from the
Wow.
city, on the outskirts of the city, there are setups of tents. And the tents are run by the Turkish authorities in Afad. And NGOs are coming to assist and coordinate with them. There's food there, there's shelters available for people, and there are deliveries that are provided on almost a daily basis.
Is the situation different in more rural areas and hard to reach mountain areas, for example?
I believe so. Though I didn't go to, in some of the mountainous areas, the building damages were a lot less because of the ground and the foundations. However, when I was in Pazarcik, as one example, it's not a remote area, but it's an area away from Antakya. The buildings did not have as many that came down, but there were many that were damaged, and 80% of the buildings are no longer livable.
You know, a place like Antakya, which is an ancient city, and it's been hit hard by earthquakes in the past, it must be so strange that it feels like a ghost town now.
Yeah, it's a historic site, and it was very strange. It was very strange to walk through it, to see all the rubble, to see buildings that you would see from an aerial view previously that looked like a beautiful historical site that is no longer in existence.
Yeah, and I know that there's been a real outpouring from people around the world, including the U.S. Everyone appreciates the work that you do. Thanks so much for that and for joining us, Ali.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.